Let me close this door.
Son? This is Gary Richard Arnold. This is December 7th, 2024, which was the date of the bombing of Pearl Harbor. What happened then was actually intended or sucked a lot of people into the Second World War. The Japanese code at that time had been broken, and both George Marshall and FDR were aware of it. They were invited by the powers that be, which is now called Five Eyes, the English, England, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, etc., for their empire. But they wanted to get the United States involved because they failed in the First World War to create the League of Nations. The League of Nations was supposed to be their base for a new world order. Fortunately, our United States Senate, that before 1913 was elected by the state legislature. This was an important barrier to prevent a dictatorship and tyrannical government. But in 1913, when they passed the Federal Reserve Act, which is private, not public, it's not federal or reserve, and people don't know about, check it out. They also created the direct election of United States senators. And if you look up in Army manuals before 1930, you'll find that the Army manuals training the U.S. troops made a very clear distinction between republics and democracies. And there's so many quotes among that argument that democracies were considered anathema to American participation in self-government. So what they did by knocking out our state legislators, they no longer defended our states' rights, which is a continuation of our Constitution down to the rights belong to us. What they began to do was to use their publications and their multinationals at that time in order to elect their senators that would approve in the Second World War joining the United Nations, etc. The United Nations was formed right here in California, in San Francisco, and that was called the United Nations. The first acting Secretary General was Alger Hiss, who was known to FDR and other people through Whittaker Chambers. Look his name up. He was a writer for Time magazine, which was actually owned by a member of Skull and Bones, quote unquote, Brotherhood of Death. You can look up a movie that's been made in the last 15 years called The Shepherd.
The Good Shepherd.
The Good Shepherd. And this had Angelina Jolie, member of the Council on Foreign Relations, Robert De Niro, who had two communist parents, and Matt Damon. But you can learn something from that. If not anything else, it'll be good entertainment. But what's happening now, through their attempts to imprison and jail and assassinate Mr. Trump, they've failed so far. And what he did was pull us out of the World Health Organization and some of the international implementation of institutions for the World Health Organization and pulling us into regions. Regions in the Soviet Union began as Soviets, and the Soviet Union could not move without the assistance of the West. And I encourage you to look up Dr. Anthony Sutton, look up Bolsheviks or Wall Street and the Bolshevik Revolution, Wall Street and Hitler, and Wall Street and FDR. FDR himself, or his cadre, asked General Smedley Butler to travel Europe and look at the controls that the fascists, the communists, and the Nazis had achieved. And this was praised by a person who was put into power by both Mr. Fields, a huge department store owner, and the Rockefellers at the University of Chicago. And they thought the best way to control people was to administer two of them and keep them in a position where they can never be challenged. And that was through a system that is sometimes referred to as 1313, which is the address on East 60th Street in Chicago, University of Chicago. And it's a public administration organization. They are the ones that now run both your city managers, your county clerks, your city attorneys, unless you're very exceptional and have a mayoral system of governments. But they use these tactics and this huge propaganda that's been building up for 150 or so years to create a world government. Right now, today, December 7th, 2024, we see in New Jersey that an attorney in wanting to address a city council was taken out by two police officers run by the city council. Those city council people do not think for themselves. Just like in California, we have a California League of Cities. And this was founded by Phelan, Phelan. He became the head. He was the founder of the California League of Cities in the 1800s, the late 1800s. His brochures pronounced, you can still find this on the communications through your internet, but he was also a member of the Bohemian Grove. And those people, since 1880s, have been doing rituals with a owl, Moloch, 60 feet high, and doing the cremation of care, which is a sacrifice of children. It's been said, but I can't vouch for it because I haven't heard them, and it would be hearsay, that in the beginning they occasionally or did actually use live children for this. But even doing this in effigy, you can find those ceremonies if you look hard enough on your computer to find it. Anyway, every city councilman, every member of a supervisor district in California belong to the California League of Cities. And they have put out recently, under their title, the new Rosenberg laws, which are to replace some of the Brown Act. The Brown Act did do some reforms and make things more transparent than might other be, or be other. The this network is powerful, and the supervisors are and city council people are kept to basically ribbon cutting and making pronouncements. And it's the city manager and the city attorney and the county clerk. And look up westernstatesnewsservice.org and you'll see a diagram out of the University of Chicago. It is still the billionaires and millionaires. And here in California, the largest lobby west of the Mississippi comes under Leon Panetta. And I'll leave this for you to look up. Look up Panetta Gate, and you will find that Leon Panetta gave military and policy information to Hugh DeLacy and another person called Karl Hessler. And Karl Hessler was actually appointed by Stalin. He didn't like the person running the official communist paper throughout the United States and selected this person. But Leon Panetta, who Obama thought would be most important to head the CIA and the Department of Defense, was appointed by Obama. And here you got a communist collaborator in the most sensitive post, in which I'm sure they filled with operatives for the New World Order. And let me tell you this too, and it's hard for people to understand, that communism is not the people trying to overthrow the central government. Communism are the bankers using communism as a tool to centralize government and to shush people up, get rid of the middle class, and make everything even. Useless eaters are forbidden. Anyway, Leon Panetta, through his California Forward, his communications, he has an assistant called Bruce McPherson, and Mr. Laird. Damn, I'm trying to think of the mayor of Santa Cruz, the treasurer. Anyway, he's got a couple of people in there. Anyway, Bruce McPherson used to be, just a rhino Republican appointed by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he was appointed as Secretary of State. He brought in the voting machines that came from Diebold, which went through a transition of different ownerships. Today it's called Dominion. He received $30,000 from Katrina Leung, Leung, a triple Chinese communist spy that successfully trapped 2 FBI agents in bed, and also gave Bruce McPherson, who's a supervisor in Santa Cruz, $30,000. But the penetration of California through the Panetta machine has been thorough. His communications editor spilled the beans. He pushed out in one of his emails, they're trying to create a nation on the West Coast called Pacifica. So I encourage you to look those up and look at westernstatesnewsservice.org, and you'll find a lot of this data for you. And this is Gary Richard Arnold on December 7th, 2024. So please take a look. And we're welcome for any corrections that there might be a misstatement. There was not one Republican U.S. senator that opposed Leon Panetta from becoming the head of the CIA or the Department of Defense, which is outrageous, which shows the control of the rhinos pre-Trump. Anyway, that's the story. Look it up. Don't believe anybody says, including me, without double checks. You guys have a great day. Take care of your families and do some preparation. I don't think things are going to be all that easy as they start to lose power by your knowledge. Best.